Hello friends, this video on active and passive voice part 6 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now, how do we handle questions from active voice to passive voice? Now, let's say if you have something like, did you call me? Did he ask you to enter inside? Did the teacher give you permission to appear in the examination? So these are all questions, interrogative sentences. So in case of questions, how do we change them from active voice to passive voice? Because they look slightly different, and even though the steps, the concept of those 3 steps remain the same in questions also, but there is a slight change when we make questions or when we form questions. So let us quickly look at the questions. So in questions, the first thing that you need to remember is words like do, does, did, they do not appear in passive voice. Do, does, did will never appear in the passive voice. So please remember this. Next thing is, if you have something like shall, will, has, have, had, can, may, so all of these would remain as they are in the passive voice. So they can exist in the passive voice, but do, does, did, they do not appear in the passive voice. So this is a very important thing which you need to remember. Next is change the tense of the verb, and finally include by before the doer of the action. Now, we will discuss about a lot of examples of questions. Now, one simple tip that I would like to give you from my end is whenever you have to convert an active voice question to passive voice, first of all, try to think of that question in the term of its answer. Try to think of that question like a normal statement and convert it into passive voice. So that will help you in the conversion. So let us look at an example. Who wrote this book? So this is a question and this is an active voice because who here is the subject. Who wrote this book? That is, the subject does something. So it is an active voice. Now, when you want to convert it into passive voice, till now whatever we have learned, as per that, you will interchange the object and the subject. So the object here is the book. So but with that logic, maybe you will convert it like this. This book by whom? And wrote will become was written. So as per the logic which we have discussed so far, this would become this book was written by whom. But as far as framing questions are concerned, a question should always start with by whom. So basically your question should start like this. By whom was this book written? So this is not the right way, but this is the right way, because when you ask the question, you always write the verb before. Like instead of writing this book was written, you write was this book written. So by whom was this book written? So this is how you frame a question. So basically, following the 3 steps, you will be able to get all the correct words, but then you need to reframe them correctly to frame a question in passive voice. Now, there is another alternative way of writing the passive form of this question. What is that alternative way? Instead of writing by whom, we can replace by whom by who. That is, who was this book written by? So instead of by whom, we can write who and then put a by at the end. So who was this book written by? This is also a correct passive form. Or you can write by whom was this book written. So the only challenge with the questions is that you need to reframe the sentence so that it looks like a question, because in question you always have who, what, how at the beginning, and you always have the verb before. Like this book was written will always be written as was this book written, right? So the order of the words would be slightly different when you frame questions. Now let us look at some examples of questions. Did he ask you? So how do we convert it into the passive form? Now, as I said, do, does, did, they never exist in the passive voice. So that is first thing you need to remember. Now, my personal tip is first try to think of this question like a statement, not like a question. Like, did he ask you? What could be the answer of this question? Like, it could be something like, he asked you. Forget about the did. Just think of this like a sentence. He asked you. So how will you convert that he asked you? He asked you in the passive form would be you were asked by him. Right? It would be you were asked by him. Now make this into a question form. So if you make it into a question form, what will it become? It will become were you asked by him. So in this case, this where will get shifted here and then it will become a question. So the passive form would be where you asked by him. So the simple thing is just think of the question in the form of its answer. Think of it like a statement. So you already know how to convert a sentence from active to passive. So convert it into passive and then from that passive sentence, convert it into the form of a question. Now let's look at some more examples like, can anybody unlock it? Have you finished today's work? When will your teacher announce the results? Shall I ever forget those happy days? So these are some of the questions and we need to convert them into their passive voice. So first one we already did, were you asked by him? Okay. Second one, can anybody unlock it? Now again, think of it like a statement and not like a question. So anybody can unlock it. So that would be like a sentence, right? So anybody can unlock it. So if you convert that into passive form, it would be it can be unlocked. Can unlock will become can be unlocked by anybody. Right? So in the passive form, that statement will be, it can be unlocked by anybody. Now we need to convert this into a question form. So what we will do, we will shift this can to the beginning. That is, it will be, can it be unlocked by anybody? So it becomes a question. So you see, this is simpler, right? Have you finished today's work? Think of this question like a statement. You have finished today's work. Right? So you have finished today's work. How will you convert it into passive form? So it will be today's work have been finished by you. So today's work have been finished by you. So when you want to convert it into a question, shift this have to the beginning. So this will become, has today's work been finished by you? So again, you see, today's work will have has, not have, because have is always used with plural, right? So has today's work been finished by you? So this becomes a question. When will your teacher announce the results? So think of it like a sentence. It will be, your teacher will announce the results. So that will become in the passive form, it will be, the results will be announced by your teacher. Right? So now when you make it as a question, it will become, when will the results be announced by your teacher? So when is an additional thing. So when will remain here. So when this will shift to the beginning. So it will become, when will the results be announced by your teacher? Shall I ever forget those happy days? So how can you think of it like a sentence? So think of this question like a statement. It would be, I shall ever forget those happy days. Now if you convert that into the passive form, it will become, those happy days will be ever forgotten by me. Because forget, forgot, forgotten. So the third form of the verb will be used. So this would be the statement. Now when you want to convert it into a question, this will come at the front. So it will become, will those happy days be ever forgotten by me? Now, even if you use shall, that would not be very much appropriate, because with those happy days, you should use will. Now, when we use I, we, then we use shall. Otherwise, we use will. So, the correct passive form will be, will those happy days be ever forgotten by me?
Thank you. Please visit examfear.com for free quality education. You can learn with a simple 4-step learning process wherein you can watch video lessons, you can ask your questions, you can refer notes, and you can take a free online test. We have content for class 6 to 12 on physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology along with practical videos. So please subscribe to our channel for daily updates. Thank you.